Ever since the unprecedented terror attacks by Hamas and Israel's retaliation, we've spoken about the wider escalation a ground invasion could trigger. Just last night, we heard Iran's foreign minister in New York warn the United States of the consequences of supporting Israel. Yet barely hours later, on the orders of President Biden, US fighters struck Iranian targets in Syria. Washington insists it was a response to attacks on their bases in the region and nothing to do with the Gaza conflict. But in a region on the edge, the risk of one action opening up a Pandora's box is very real indeed.
For more than 2 weeks, Iranian-backed militant groups have taunted the United States with attacks on their assets in the Middle East, showcasing their weaponry on social media amid US warnings against escalation. Overnight, America hit back. The retaliatory strikes took place in eastern Syria, near Abu Kamal, a town on the border with Iraq. The two targets were a weapons depot and an ammunition storage facility, which America says were used by Iran's Revolutionary Guards. 2 F-16 strike jets, accompanied by drones, released more than 30 precision-guided bombs at 4:30 in the morning. It's not known if there were any casualties. America says the strikes were in response to a series of rocket and drone attacks against US personnel and bases, which have injured at least 24 US service personnel. One contractor has also died. Despite showing strong support for Israel over the course of the past weeks, the Biden administration insists the attacks were to protect and defend and not part of the wider conflict between Israel and Hamas.
The United States hopes that by striking back here, that will send a message that will reduce attacks on the United States and allies elsewhere. There's a lot of risk, but it was probably the thing that needed to be done.
Within hours of America sending its message to Iran and its proxies, there was a very public response. The Iranian army, the largest troop force in the Middle East, carrying out training exercises, whilst in Iraq and Syria, 2 further strikes hit US bases. The anger against America, Israel and the West is growing on the streets of the Middle East. In Lebanon, a Hezbollah rally in solidarity with those in Gaza echoed to calls for vengeance. A hatred of America and Israel is nothing new for Hezbollah supporters, but it is at a heightened pitch at the moment. And the anger is also directed at the UK, France and other Western nations who have shown support to Israel. Across the Arab world, the response to Israel's actions in Gaza are growing. Jordan, just one of the countries seeing unrest on its streets. The warnings against escalation risk being drowned out by events.
Now let's speak to Emma, who's in the Lebanese capital, Beirut, tonight. Emma, with events in Gaza tonight, do you think we've reached what could be called a trigger point that could spill all this into a wider conflict?
Yes, I think we very much are at that point. And if you just study the words of the Jordanian foreign minister tonight, of course, a representative of a country that is one of America's greatest allies here, has a peace treaty with Israel. He has said that he believes the actions that have been taken this evening have cast this region into an abyss. And in many countries, many cities, we're seeing violent protests against American assets, against the American embassy and Israeli embassies. Now, there is the other issue, which was the airstrikes conducted by America last night. President Biden ordered those personally, and he saw them as a deterrent. Now, that clearly hasn't worked, because during the course of today, there were 2 strikes on US territories in this region. This evening, we've been told of explosions at least 2 other bases. What happens next? Well, let's see. But this evening, we've also learned that a number of Western nations have sent special forces here to Lebanon, their expertise in evacuating people from conflict zones.
Emma in Beirut, thank you very much indeed. And we're joined now from Washington by Robert. Robert, President Biden enjoys enormous currency within Israel, but he's also warned Israel about the humanitarian situation in Gaza and about the wider regional war, the risks of regional war that we were hearing from Emma. What do you think his administration makes of what's playing out on the ground now?
Oh, I think the White House, Raggi, has made its position crystal clear, and that's not shifting despite the ominous events tonight unfolding in and around the Gaza Strip. America is backing Israel, not just in terms of its language, saying that America has Israel's back, but also in overt military support, providing not just intelligence advice, but also ammunition as well. And today, a spokesman for the White House and the National Security Council said it was imposing no red lines on Israeli actions in the coming days. That will be read, as Emma was reporting there, in the Arab world and beyond, as essentially giving a green light to this invasion. And clearly, there will be a heavy diplomatic price to pay for that. We saw that at the United Nations today. The General Assembly adopted a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire. It was passed overwhelmingly with 120 nations backing it. Only one major power opposed it and voted against it, namely the United States. And the consequences of that were made clear by the Jordanian ambassador to the UN.
I would like to remind delegations that Israel is responsible for the atrocities that are being committed now and that will be committed in their ground invasion of Gaza. Do not support any effort to legitimize such atrocities.
So a significant risk, as Emma was saying as well, of escalation now. The United States has one carrier battle group in the Eastern Mediterranean, another battle group in the Persian Gulf. Its bases in eastern Syria and in Iraq are on standby. The Biden administration also making clear that if Iran or its proxies attack those forces, then America will respond at a time and place of its choosing. I think it is undoubtedly true tonight that there is the greatest risk of a regional war since 1967, since the end of the Six-Day War.